think what we are hearing even from HR, and I would like Ritu to now take the turn and share that what efforts had been put to not only look into internal people, external people, the balance. I think loads of things we have to learn from you, Ritu, that how you're managing all the work from Farhad's perspective on pharma to you in a hospital. Please share with us what your experience are and how you're looking into it.
Thanks, Runa. Thank you so much for that humble introduction of mine. Though everybody has talked about COVID and its impact on the healthcare industry, I would talk COVID not as a killer, but rather as an innovation generator for all of us. So innovation generator is that we all have a potential to grow. We all have a potential mind to think. We all have an innovative surge in our own careers that we can bring up. However, we have to have that potential to identify that what are the key areas that we need to have an accelerated growth, as Yashwant mentioned very rightly. Because I belong to an organization which does not mean in corporate governance and which has been traditionally set up. But I have found this COVID has actually worked as a catalyst for all of us, wherein we are not only given an opportunity to think widely and into a creative manner so that we can generate, create and regenerate things out of nothing. It was more of a work as an HR, if I would say that people were laid off from the jobs. However, for healthcare sector, it was more of the burden which was given to its manpower and the workforce, which are supposed to be aligned to the new normal, which is nothing but which was away from the brick and mortar offices that we generally used to stay in. The basic criteria that revolved all around us during this tough time of unlocking and locking was that people were staying at home, but at healthcare, people were supposed to be on their jobs. And on their jobs means they were supposed to walk a little mile ahead, because they were supposed to wear the PPEs which they never meant to be. They were supposed to take care of their personal hygiene. They were more supposed to be equipped using the instruments in a different manner, talking to people in a different manner altogether, and working in a close community which we never had an opportunity to work for. Social distancing became a new normal for all of us. But we were not used to of all these things. Even when I go back home, I was a little more scared hugging my 10-year-old daughter because I might carry infection back home. All these things were not normal for the people who were working for healthcare, and even it is not normal today. However, we are still trying to learn. We are still trying to maintain a particular kind of hygiene so that we cannot be a potential resource for cross infection for others, not even humiliating our own self-esteem by getting onto certain kinds of infectious stages and then carrying it forward to our families also. Still, we have really worked hard by keeping that social distancing norms at the pivotal point, and it was found that first identifying the people who can be out of the office was very, very important for a healthcare unit to know. Now, it is very difficult to identify the people who can be out of office. So first we thought of the research unit which can operate from home. So it was very much pivotal for all of us to identify first the research unit that can be identified as a role model to keep an example who can be working from home. Second, we thought of people who should be seated at home are the people who can catch the infection fast. So though I work in an industry and especially to a hospital which has given jobs to especially the paraplegic people, so we allowed them to work from home, give their opinions, suggestions and anything that they can actually contribute. So we were also evolving during that process altogether. Then the second process after identification of certain units, we found that there are certain group of people who cannot work from home. So we have to identify that what works can we give to them so that they can be out of office for a certain period of time and they can contribute from home. So we found there was a special set of nursing, senior nursing staff who can contribute for the policy making, who can contribute for the statutory things that were changing altogether, and there were different kind of new things and principles coming our way. They have to coordinate with the government and other specialized authorities. So we identified these jobs which can be contributed from the home. So we allowed them to be seated at home and finally contribute to the organization in the same way as we were contributing, coming to the offices regularly. Then it was another challenge to provide them the basic infrastructure which was there, which is required for them to contribute from home, because everybody does not carry a laptop or other requisite materials which are required for them to work from home. So we invested in those materials so that we can have such kind of system where they can be allowed to have that liberty to contribute equally as other people were contributing. And we never challenged them because we allowed them to have that time to understand that technology, and there was a constant backup which was given by the IT team. So it was much of an evolving process. And I think after 2 to 3 months of the lockdown period that we were in, we really had gone a far way to understand that how we can still feel normal if even we are sitting at home. Second, and the third and the most important thing was actually working on their stress management. If I meet you personally, I have a different way of interacting with you. But if I'm meeting you on Zoom, definitely, I have to have a technology-driven virtual meeting that I'm doing with you. Since all these were happening, we encourage people to adjust to a new thing. And we encourage people to have that perseverance to learn a new technology which was coming their way, not for the benefit of the organization, rather for the benefit of upskilling their own knowledge and preparing them for 2021, not for 2020. So this is what I want to share for that. Thanks, Runa, for giving me the opportunity. Over to you.
I think a very, very interesting question has come up from Dr. Jyoti Munde. She is addressing to all, but I would like to request both Ritu and Farhat to respond. And I will also have to manage time because I think we are going to take another 3-4 minutes. So the question is, have you faced staffing issues being HR of healthcare industry during pre and post COVID situation? So a quick one from both Ritu and Farhat.
Too many. I would say too many. Why? Because when the COVID had just struck, even the most scared community were doctors. The most scared community were nurses. And you will find that every day I landed in the hospital in the morning, there were a news that 4 nurses absconded from the hostel without notifying anyone. So this was the game altogether. And when we were doing the manpower planning for the COVID wards, when we were supposed to start it at the order of the government of India and finally the CM of Delhi. So it was difficult for us to find doctors and difficult for us to retain them. So then we have to plan it accordingly. We did a thoughtful, we gave a thoughtful insight to all of these things. We first tried to plan their accommodation within the hospital campus. We made food available to them. We made Wi-Fi free of cost available to them so that they can speak to their people at home, their family members at home. So we wanted to be compassionate towards them rather than buying a man force in barter of money. So we were not doing that. We were thinking that we are dealing with human beings as if the entire world is struggling. They are also struggling and we are a part of them. So we paid due compassionate ground to them and we addressed whatever their grievances on time. Even at night, if somebody would call me at 12 o'clock in the midnight, I would still give a patient hearing to him and try to sort out the next day when he comes to the office. So this is what we did.
I think the time passed and we didn't realize that we are already at 6:25 and 5 more minutes would take us to concluding the session. As we all know, time is important. Let's respect time. I was so eager to get your last few parting comments. I guess if you can use one line as a inspiration to our audience, because today's session is one of the most vibrant and very high level of learning in my capacity of a moderator and a speaker in webinars. I think I'm very thankful to all four of you. Thank you for such a beautiful time you gave us, so much learning. So I'm actually requesting, I might move to a little more than 6:30. First time I'm breaking the rule, just because we have an excellent speaker. One line, please. Ritu.
This pandemic allowed me to learn about the preciousness of life. So I would actually discuss about, life is really precious. So first, pay respect to the dignity of life. That is your life, my life. And then pay an equitable respect to somebody else's life. Value creation will come on its own. And the time is fleeting. We would not live till eternity. So this is the time to gear ourselves, pull up our socks, to have that mission to be completed for which we are born on this earth, which is nothing but value creation for the society.